Hello and welcome to today's livecast. I am Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and it is a launch day. So I am super excited today to be here live with you to talk about Origin Story, the Tokaido expansion. Vantage has this little update pack for errata, the Tokaido Crossroads and Matsuri expansion, the big playmat for Tokaido that includes all the expansion slots plus the core game board for Tokaido. I am very excited. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And I see some familiar faces here, including I see Austin, who was at our design day this past weekend. I'll talk about design day in a little bit, but Austin, good to see you here. Great to meet you face-to-face at design day. Yeah, I am really excited to be here today to talk about these topics. Oh, I didn't even hold up the Origin Story disc golf disc, the custom disc that we have from artist Miles Bensky. This is the version of the disc that I'll be throwing. I actually don't, it's a Firebird. I don't throw the Firebird currently, so I'm going to see if that's something that I can work into the types of discs that I throw. I see a lot of people saying that they have ordered some of these products on our web store, and it is a full page on our web store, not only of the stuff that we launched today, but also of other recent products, because we had our other launch fairly recently. That was for the Wingspan Dragon Academy expansion, Tokaido Duo, and Smitten 2. And so if you were waiting to consolidate all that stuff and maybe get free shipping, if you get over the free shipping threshold of $125 or $100 for champions, you might be ordering all that stuff today. Oh, and I didn't even mention one of the other big things, the Wingspan Fan Design bird packs. We have these 6 bird packs that you can incorporate into your game of Wingspan now. This is our last launch day for a while. Our next anticipated launch day will be kind of in the later end of January, if all goes well with freight shipping and tariffs and all that stuff. So it'll be a while. We have nothing coming out for a while. So this is like the big day for us. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Melissa says, I don't see the Vantage pack on the store. So Melissa, let's take a look at it. George also says that the new disc isn't on the European store. You may have to refresh. I do know that as of like 30 minutes ago, maybe 45 minutes, the disc was missing, but I think it is there now. Let's take a look at this stuff to see where things are going. And actually, one question from Mark. Mark says, does the playmat fit inside the Tokaido game box if I remove the original game board? No, Mark, because the playmat includes the original board plus an extra layer up here. I'm doing it upside down. Am I? Yeah, I'm doing it upside down. It includes an extra layer for all the card slots. And so it is taller than the original game board. It definitely does not fit into the box. I don't know. I think we would have had to shrunk down a lot of things to make that work. But anyway, let's take a look at the web stores to see where these products are. So I'm going to click over to the newsletter. So on the newsletter, if you go to, we'll go to the US store at first. We'll go here. So on the US store, this takes us to the latest releases tab here. And if you look at the latest releases tab and scroll down a little bit, you can see the Vantage errata pack right here, or update/errata pack. And with any of these things that you see here, if you see something that I'm showing you right now where you're like, oh, shoot, I meant to add that to my order, don't place another order. Instead, send your order number to contact@stonemaier.com and do it quickly. You may not get a reply right away, but you should get it within a few hours. Send your order number to contact@stonemaier.com with the things that you want to add to your order. Again, do not try to cancel your order and do not place a second order, especially, don't place a second order at all. Just contact us and we'll add the stuff to your original order. We cannot merge orders together. George mentioned the Stonemaier disc not being on the Europe store. So let's click over to the Europe store and see what's going on there. So here's the latest releases page for the Europe store. And let's see if the disc is there. Yeah, here's the disc, George, right here. You might just have to refresh because it wasn't among the launch products by accident for a few minutes this morning. But yeah, it looks like everything is here now. I see some nice comments, just some excited comments. That's wonderful to see. Here's a question here. Malothika says, happy launch day. Are you considering releasing the deluxe edition of Namiji next year? So kind of 2 answers to that. One, next year we are planning on releasing the Stonemaier version of Namiji. However, for the entire Tokaido line, we are not planning to do any of the deluxe stuff. We consider Tokaido to be a great gateway or gateway plus game, and the deluxe stuff prices it well out of the category of a gateway or gateway plus game. So we are sticking with the core elements of all Tokaido games, including Namiji. So no deluxe stuff, but yes to the Stonemaier version of Namiji sometime next year. That is the plan, at least. Aaron also says he had to they had to search for the Vantage errata pack when they placed their order. That's interesting. Are you all seeing something differently than I'm seeing on the latest releases page? Maybe it just isn't on the home page, which I will look at that real quick. Let's look at the home page. Okay, you're right. So it isn't on the home page, nor is the disc, which is somewhat. Yeah, I guess we could replace. So here, I'll show you what I'm looking at. So we have Tokaido and Wingspan on the home page. We could replace those, and we don't have all of the bird packs here because it would take up like the entire home page. You know, yeah, I'll put in a little request here to put the disc and the Vantage pack on homepage to replace Tokaido and Wingspan games. Okay, I'll put in. I'm putting in the request right now to our lovely web developer Dave, and he can look into updating the homepage of the web store. So, yeah, awesome. Sorry about that. Sorry, it's a little tough to adjust things on the fly while I'm talking to you and also trying to correspond with other people, but it should be taken care of in a few minutes. Okay, so that should be taken care of, and we should be fine now. So back to focusing on you, which is why I'm here today. Kevin says, would you say the champion hoodie runs bigger or smaller? I would say, let's see. I would say it runs a little big, but I would say just get your regular size. Well, I'll say, what's a different way of saying this? So it's a slightly baggy, but not all that baggy. It's fairly well fitted as well. It's kind of in between. I typically wear small t-shirts. I don't know what this one is. I think this might be a medium. It's not super tight. So I think this might be a medium shirt, but I usually wear small t-shirts. And I intentionally wear a medium hoodie because I want it to fit over other items of clothing. So if that's any indication, maybe go one size up from your normal size, but you could even go, if we're out of stock of that size, I think you're safe going with your standard t-shirt size as well. Christopher says $10 shipping on $1 errata pack. Christopher, we actually have the errata pack set up so that the shipping should be $5. So if you're seeing $10 shipping on it, something might be wrong, but I am 99% sure that we set that up. I will make a note about that as well. I'll make a note about that on here too. Like even on the web store, it says flat rate shipping for $10. We have a few exceptions to that for really smaller, lightweight products. But it's possible that is wrong somewhere, but that is the intention. It's also, I mean, so basically we are going to lose a decent amount of money if you just order the update pack. And it is okay for you to do that. It is entirely your right to do that. But it's also better if you put something else in your cart, if you combine it with something else. I won't hold it against anyone, of course, for getting just the update pack, if that's all you need from our web store. It's not a trick to get you to buy more stuff, but I'll put that out there, that we are subsidizing the shipping cost by putting it at $5 shipping. Anthony says, did you encounter any issues with the North America bird pack since the American Ornithological Society embarked on renaming about 80 species? That was something that we kept in mind. We kept in mind that process. It does appear to still be a process. So we're kind of somewhat learning on an ongoing basis. We're looking at the current names, but we're also hopefully waiting for the process to be complete at some point. And that's when we might look into updating some birds that we've already printed. Nate says, was it your web developer or Shopify that made changes to the shopping interface and experience? The web store on mobile was a little jarring today. Nate, feel free to send me some screenshots about what you're referring to. I rarely look at it on mobile. I usually look at it on my computer, but it's not something that we're doing. That would be a Shopify change or potential change to the template, which we have editing control over, but we didn't edit anything to be different today, is my short answer to your question. Okay, so a few people have said they missed the errata pack because it isn't on the homepage. So we are updating the homepage for that information. Steven says, do you have a favorite power and event card in Origin Story, or top 3 that you'd be willing to share on either? It's hard for me to pick a favorite now. Well, it's definitely hard for me to pick a favorite for the story cards, although monologuing is one of my favorites. We really tried, even though it's a trick-taking game, we tried to lean into the theme of these cards. They were all theme-first designs, and monologuing is one where I believe all the other players can see your hand of cards, and it's paired with another, due to that disadvantage, it's paired with another advantage. So I like the theme of that card a lot. Event cards, there's one that has players acting kind of together, like a little cooperative moment. And there were times where we thought about making Origin Story a cooperative game because there's, superheroes often work together. But this is a game where you can be a hero or a villain. So it didn't make sense thematically for players to always be working together. But to have one moment in the game, in the middle round, that's when you have the event where all players work together. I like that idea. Here's another friend, Paul, who was at Design Day. Thank you, Paul, for saying this, and thank you for coming to Design Day this past weekend. Hopefully you had a good time there. So Design Day, I've mentioned it a few times. We had this annual event. This was, I believe, the 12th annual event for Design Day. It's a prototyping playtesting event where designers from around the country, and even Canada this year, we had some people drive down from Canada, join us to playtest their games and playtest games from other designers. So I would say maybe a third of the people who attend actually bring a game to playtest. Everyone else is there just to have a good time and playtest other games. It's at Pieces Board Game Bar and Cafe in St. Louis. They are the wonderful host for this event. And Joe, my coworker, coordinates the whole thing. And I just show up and have a great time with people. I was there for about 13 hours on Sunday, just observing games. I kind of popped around and watched a few minutes of, I tried to make it to every game. I think I might've missed 1 or 2, but I tried to make it to almost every game and spend a little time with everyone there. It's around 100 people who attend. And we did realize that we could probably fit, without increasing the noise or it being overcrowded, we could fit another 20 people in this space next year. So we are going to expand the size of the event next year just a little bit. It won't go beyond that because there's a limit to how many people we can fit into Pieces. So there's a little bit of flexibility that'll happen next year. So if you haven't been able to attend and you've been wanting to attend Stonemaier Games Design Day, it's typically in September or October. Feel free to go to our web store and sign up for a back in stock request for the 2025 event. And that'll put you on the list, the waiting list for when we announce the 2026 Design Day event. But yeah, thank you to everyone who attended, the playtesters, my team, Joe and Susanna and Dave were there for almost the entire day. And all the attendees, whether you were playtesting or prototyping or a little bit of both. It was really awesome. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I do have a blog post coming tomorrow about how the event went with some photos and the list of the games that were deemed like the most ready for publication. It's not a rating of how good these games were. It's just like these games they're fun, they're functional, they're intuitive, they're ready to go if a publisher is ready to make them or if someone's ready to self-publish them. I can see a number of people are talking about the hoodies here saying that they run a little bigger. And let's see here. Nicole says the hoodie runs a little bigger. I ordered a medium and she's swimming in it. I usually wear small. So yeah, I think they are a little bigger than the normal size. Yeah. Murray says, how much are the Wingspan fan packs? So at least in US dollars, this depends on the web store. In US dollars, the MSRP is $10. The launch sale price for the next few days is $8 per pack. And then that makes the champion price. If you're a champion, you save another 20% on top of that. So I think that puts it around $6.50 per pack, which ends up being a better deal than any Wingspan expansion on a per card basis. You're getting 25 cards per pack. David, thank you for testing this. David just tried adding only the Vantage update pack to his cart, and he was offered the $5 shipping. So you might have to look at the shipping drop down to get that option, and that's the same for free shipping as well. If you have over $125 of stuff in your cart and you aren't getting free shipping, it just means that you haven't selected free shipping. For some reason, Shopify doesn't make it automatic. You have to choose that option from a drop-down menu. It's a little clunky. Funk says, when will Friendly Little Game Stores get more Vantage copies? His sold out, and will it include the errata pack? So we're still currently on the first printing of Vantage, and if your store is having trouble getting it, feel free to have them contact us directly. I think we are on the verge of selling out. We have a few copies left in the web store, but distributors also might have some copies. So always, if this ever happens for any product and your Friendly Little Game Store, which I love that you're supporting, is not getting copies from their distributor, they can also contact us directly. We can't always help that way, but we can at least help connect some dots there. So please always ask if they have reached out to the publisher, even for us or for other publishers too. We are working on a reprint of Vantage that includes all the little updates. They're very small, and you can play Vantage without any of these updates and not have a problem. But these small updates do, as you're exploring this world, you might encounter something that's a little weird. The reprint should arrive, we're hoping in, I'm going to say December, January. It really depends a lot on when the shipment actually goes out and how quickly it gets here. But it is in the process. It is in like the end of the production process at this point. Dean says, if the bird names change someday, as we think they likely will when that process is finished, will there be an errata pack? Errata is maybe a strong word for that. I'll call that an update pack, because this is not a mistake that the game is making. This is an update to the names. We will offer an update pack for those birds for sure. Dean also says, do you suggest keeping the promos separate or with their individual content? Dean, I think it depends on how you want to play. It is totally fine to shuffle all these birds together with all your other birds. That is totally fine. One way that I have played recently that I had a lot of fun with was having each player choose a different continent, and that was their draw deck. They could still draw from the center display of birds, the bird tray. But if they wanted to draw from the top of the deck and their opening hand, they could pull from their own private deck associated with that bird pack. And that was a lot of fun. It's a little variant. I posted it on our website if you want to try that variant. So that is entirely up to you if you plan on playing that way. Garrett says, are you backing anything new this week? I did back something. What did I back, Garrett? I backed the game from Sam McDonald and Garphill Games called Secret Societies. I was on the fence about it, but then I listened to the Lens and Veil podcast where they talked about what made the game work and what made it special. And I was like, oh, okay, this is my type of game. I'm excited about this type of game. So that is what I think I'm currently backing. There might be a few others, but I think that's the thing that I most recently backed. What about you, Garrett, and anyone else watching here? Anything else that you're backing other than getting these new Stonemaier Games products? Here's Austin saying, congrats to you and Pete on the launch. Yeah, my co-designer Pete was also at Design Day. I don't know if any of you ran into him there. Austin says, great getting to briefly meet you at Design Day. I also got to hang out and watch Austin's game get played. It looked like a really, really cool game, Austin, what you pulled together there. I'm very curious to learn more. And he says, looking forward to hearing more about your perspective of the event. Yeah, I'll have to think if I can come up with something more concrete, because really my takeaway from every Design Day is these people are so awesome. Like, it is about the games, and the games are wonderful to witness that creativity and the vast variety of games at Design Day. but just the friendliness, the kindness, the generosity, the vulnerability of everyone who attends Design Day is just incredible to witness and be around. So that's my general takeaway. I'll see if I can come up with something more specific for the blog post, though, Austin. Christopher says, would ordering the Wingspan fan design packs along with Origin Story delay the estimated delivery date at all? Not at all. No, all these things are in stock and ready to ship. The shipments will take, typically for launch periods, we get a bunch of orders all at once. Fulfillment centers are run by human beings who cannot ship everything within seconds. It takes them time to do this. So the champion orders, if you're a Stonemaier champion, your order will probably take about at least a week to ship. So through next Friday. And then after that, fulfillment centers will focus on non-champion orders. That is the hope. That is the plan. It does rely somewhat on the exact number of orders that we receive. Aaron says that they're really enjoying Origin Story as a solo game, which I love. Aaron is our solo panelist. If you ever see me talk about our solo panelist picks on the YouTube channel, those come from Aaron. So Aaron, thank you for talking about or mentioning the solo mode for Origin Story. Here's Julie, another wonderful Design Day attendee. Julie says, how do you decide how many games to feature at Design Day? It's somewhat constrained by table space. So we aren't selecting some designers over others. We are saying if you have a game that you have play tested, that you are excited to play test at Design Day, we most likely have a table for you. And now that we have a feel for the space, we have even more of a feel for how many tables that we actually had this year. I think there probably is a somewhat of a balance beyond tables between the number of playtesters and the number of tables available to playtest games, or number of games to playtest. But Joe kind of works through that puzzle every year on this while he's scheduling different games for different tables. Carol, another Design Day attendee. Carol, thanks for coming again with Ben this year. It was wonderful to see the two of you and to play a game with you, to play disc golf. So yeah, one other thing that we did at Design Day is that there's some littler events around the day to make it more of a weekend rather than just a day. And so on Saturday, I played disc golf with around maybe 25, 30 people joined us for disc golf at Crestwood Park, which was awesome to see. Dustin apparently hit the pin. He didn't have an ace, but he had 2 baskets from his drives, but they didn't quite go in. I also hit 1 pin, which was fun to do. Also didn't go in. But yeah, Carol, I'm glad you were able to make it again. I see some other people mentioned that they hope to attend at Design Day someday. I would love for everyone to attend in some form someday. George says, have you ever had to reskin a Stonemaier game due to its theme? I'm considering this for design I'm working on, but my heart does not want to. It's very difficult for me to do that because I design games with the theme. I'm thinking about the theme along with the mechanisms all at once from the beginning. So Pendulum was a game that was originally historically themed based on, I think, the Romans. And I worked with a designer to retheme it, to work that same theme into a fantasy theme. For better or for worse, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that was the right call, but I love exploring new worlds rather than necessarily revisiting historical events. So that was one. The other one was Apiary, which kept its bee theme. It was a bee theme from the start, from the foundation of the game. But Connie and I worked to incorporate a science fiction theme into that game because we thought it would be a neat twist on a science fiction game and also a neat twist on a bee game. And also at the time, Honeybuzz was very popular. And Honeybuzz is a worker placement engine building game about bees. And we thought, okay, well, if we have a worker placement engine building game about bees, we have to differentiate the theme from Honeybuzz in some way. Valerie says, Design Day was amazing. Valerie, is so fun to meet you and your partner. Valerie was part of the couple that drove down from Canada, and it was so wonderful to spend some time with you there. And Valerie says that 20 more people could fit into that space. Yeah, we had a few empty tables, not by more by design rather than having a lack of attendees. But Pieces just has a bigger space, and we weren't sure how the noise level would be if we filled that room with too many people. We wanted to try to make sure we had the best experience for attendees before trying to add more new attendees. Aaron says, how long is the launch sale for Origin Story? It'll go through Sunday, the end of Sunday. and then the price will go up a little bit after that. So our launch period is usually Wednesday through Sunday. And that goes for all of the launch products now and the launch products that we had back in September, like the Wingspan Dragon Academy expansion. Here's Jared from the Champion Jason from the Champion faction. It was great to meet you and hang out with you, play disc golf with you, see you at Design Day. So yeah, thanks for making the trip up here from Texas. Nicole also had a question about the launch discount that goes through Sunday. Is the launch discount. Chad says, have you received a good amount of third-party accessory submissions for your showcase? Yeah, Chad, thanks for mentioning that. That's a relatively recent thing that we've been doing. We've had third-party accessory agreements in place with a variety of creators for a long time. So this is when someone wants to make like a cool component for Origin Story, like a different version of the stamina tokens. They want to do that. So not a core gameplay component, just something ancillary to the game, an accessory. We've let people do this for a long time, as long as they don't use our art or icons and they don't pretend that it's an official Stonemaier product. There are a few guidelines like that to follow. But very recently, we added a third-party accessory showcase to our website to feature all these products. We're not selling them. We are just featuring them and then linking to the place where the creator wants to sell them. And Chad, yes, we have the page is very well populated at this point. So if anyone's looking for that, well, I have this up on the screen. Let's go show you where you can find it. This is, I'm wondering if so I'll mention it in the next newsletter. It looks like I did not mention it in the current one. I will mention it in the next one. But if you go to our website, which I will pull up over here in a moment. Here we go. So if you are at the Stonemaier Games website, looks like this. And you're looking for the third-party accessories, if you're just curious to see what they're about, you can go to shop. I think we put it on shop. Yeah, here we go. If you look at shop and go down to third-party accessory showcase, it will take you to this page. And you can filter the results however you want based on a lot of filters entered by the people who have created these accessories, as well as by game. But you can just scroll down and see a lot of really interesting, cool stuff that people have created for our games. And if you get to the very bottom, you can see a link that says add your third-party Stonemaier Games accessory to this page, and that shows the agreement. It shows it shows a form for how you can do this. So, Chad, thanks for bringing that up. Sandy says, order place for a lot of new stuff, but a question for next time. I have no interest in disc golf personally, but my dog loves Frisbees. Are the discs suitable for using for pets? Sandy, they are. They are. They're maybe a little bit expensive for a fun pet toy, but we have plenty of friends who, like I have a friend whose dog has a specific disc that their dog loves to catch and play with while they play. A lot of disc golfers use their disc as water bowls for their dogs during the while playing disc golf. They'll just fill it with water and let their pet drink out of it. So they are entirely suitable for pets. Okay, Peter, so a few people have asked about changing bird names for birds that we've already published. The context for this, Peter, is that there is a movement among the official birding societies of the world to rename birds that are named after people. The basic idea is people don't, like, these animals existed before people discovered them. And so the elements that make a bird special or unique have nothing to do with a person sticking their name on it. And so the movement is to move away from that and make all bird names attributed to what makes that bird special, rather than a person who may or may not be problematic, who discovered that bird, who found that bird at some point in time. The Green Laser says, would you have any interest in republishing the super rare 70-year-old sci-fi game Space O? I've never heard of Space O, and so probably not. But what makes it special? Why do you love this game? What makes you love this game? And I would say the publisher that is well prepped for something like this and does actually have a form where you can say, hey, would you ever consider restoring this game, is Restoration Games. Their specialty is taking older games and modernizing them, bringing up to kind of modern gaming standards. That is what that is their specialty. So that's probably the company that would maybe consider a game like this. Chris says, what are some of your favorite combo-tastic games? My friends love combo turns, and I'd love to introduce some new light to medium weight games to them. I think combos are created in different ways. There's the fantasy realm style combo where you're scoring a lot of points if you combine different cards together. There's the combos and origin story. This is a game about building combos of cards based on getting better or even worse at, well, getting better at trick taking or getting better or worse at winning tricks. There are times in the game where you might declare yourself a villain. That means that you don't want to win tricks. So you want to combo together a couple different abilities to ensure that you win fewer tricks. Chris, I probably have a video about combo-tastic games, but those are two that come to mind off the top of my head that I think work pretty well. One for scoring, one for just getting better at what you're doing and combining different abilities together for that. Solid Scorpion Z says, what's your favorite spooky season game to play? I'm excited for Spooktacular. That's a good question. I need to start pulling out some good spooky season, like Halloween themed games. Let's see if I have any on my shelf that lean a little bit towards being scary. I'm sure I have a list on my YouTube channel about that, but I'm not going to look that up right now. You know, games that have a little bit of like push your luck tension to them, I think work well for this. So I'm looking, I know this isn't really all that scary. Actually, no, I will say the one. I was going to say Clank, but I think my better pick is Mysterium Park. I think Mysterium Park is wonderful for that purpose. Okay, I'm just scrolling through looking for questions. I'm a few minutes behind here, but I'm actually not too far behind. And as usual, I'm happy to answer any questions about any of these new products that we launched today, about Design Day, about Origin Story. Josh says, what is the Vantage card pack all about? So this is the Vantage update pack, update/errata pack. So it is a combination of around, I think it's around a dozen cards, 16 cards. Actually, no, 19 total cards. Some of them small, a few larger cards. They're cards where they are fully functional as printed in the game, but they have some elements that we discovered after the release that could be better or clearer. And so they just have little updates to existing cards. So if you get this pack, you'll insert these cards in place of the original cards, and you'll recycle the original cards. It also has 2 sticker sheets that you can use to update the storybooks in the same way. Some storybook entries that maybe there was one that was just completely incorrect, and there's a few that just needed like tiny little tweaks to make more sense for the gameplay. All of this stuff is also updated on the Rule Pop app, not the cards, but the storybook entries. But yeah, just little gameplay updates that make a few things make a little bit more sense for how the game works. Yeah. Christopher says, can we see the Origin Story Rolling Realms? So here's the pack for Origin Story. So this is for the game Rolling Realms. This is a realm for that game inspired by Origin Story. Here it is, designed by Karel Tateka. And yeah, it's a trick-taking realm, which was a very difficult puzzle for Karel to figure out, but I think he did a wonderful job with it. Trishul says, did you ever experiment with any magnetic components for Stonemaier game, a la games such as The New Dinosaur Island and Fractured Sky? Does crowdfunding still hold the keys to such elaborate productions? Not really. I think anyone can produce a game with magnetic components, whether or not it's crowdfunded. Have I actually toyed around with it in the game? I'm trying to think if there's any Stonemaier game that has a magnetic component. Not off the top of my head, but there might be one that I'm forgetting. So I don't think we've used it yet, but I think it is quite possible at some point in the future we will use it. The place where I saw it, where I thought it was really, really cool in particular, was Merchants of the Dark Road, which has a dial on the board, and rather than having it, having it pushed together with like a plastic pin, the dial itself has a magnet in it, and the board has a magnet in it, and they snap together, and it holds in place. It's a really clever way to combine, to have a component that needs to be a part of the board, but shouldn't be stored there, basically. I really like that. Wendy plans on teaching apiary soon. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate anyone, including you, Wendy, for teaching any of our games and sharing them with other people. So I hope it goes well when you teach it to your friend who loves worker placement games. Tim says, will you host app links on the third-party page? Tim, I think it is. Let's see if it's within the guidelines. I can't remember if I said yes to that or not. I think it's fair game. Yeah. At least for now, I'm going to say yes, that it, I think so. I think so, Tim. I have a vague recollection of maybe removing it, but I can't remember why I would remove it. So for now, I'll say yes. It's not a long form to fill out, so if we end up removing it, it's probably wasted about 60 seconds of your time. But you're welcome to submit it, and I'll take a look. Yeah, I know what app you're talking about, Tim, but I'm trying to remember if there was a reason that I didn't specify that apps are okay, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Troy says, do you need Smitten 1 to play Smitten 2? You do not. No, Smitten 2, they're entirely independent games. Here's Smitten 2 right here. They have the same exact gameplay. So if you end up liking Smitten 2, you could later on get Smitten 1 if you want. Same exact gameplay, just different abilities on the cards, and different art too. So the cards themselves are different. Yeah, so independent, different games with the same rules. So if you know the rules for one, you know the rules for the other one too. Board Game Eric says, if you buy Vantage from the Stonemaier store today, would the errata be needed for that version? Yes, the second printing of Vantage won't be available until December or January. So all the copies that exist in the world right now are first printing copies. And I think they're all first printing English copies. Yeah. So if you do buy Vantage on our web store today, I would recommend getting the update pack along with it. Nathan says, what's my favorite disc? Oh, I have a lot of discs that I really love, Nathan. But the only disc that I have 2 aces with is my Big Germ AVR 3 putt and approach disc. I have two versions of that disc. I have a blue one and a yellow one. I have aces with both of those discs, so I'd probably say that's my favorite disc. I also really love the Stonemaier Games Wingspan disc, which I think is a I can't remember the Innova equivalent of the Wingspan disc off the top of my head, but that's one that I really enjoy throwing to longer distances. G-Dub says, do the Bird promo packs work with all combinations of the Wingspan game and expansions? And yes, they do. They do. Yeah, they're fully compatible with everything that's already in Wingspan. Chad says, what's my celebratory chocolate of the day? Well, I mentioned that we were at Pieces for Design Day, and Pieces makes really, really delicious vegan cookies. I eat all sorts of cookies. They don't need to be vegan, but they happen to be vegan. They happen to be really, really delicious. And there were some extras at the end of the day, so people were kind of taking home extra cookies. And so I have a few cookies from Pieces that I'm still actively enjoying. And both of them actually have chocolate in it. So it counts as my chocolate of the day. You know, normally I do have one. I normally have like a question of the day. I don't have a big topic for today, but I had a little idea I wanted to throw out to you really quick before I get to other questions. I know I'm still behind on questions. But I was thinking the other day, and I decided not to do this on my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel is about game design. It's about being positive about the games that I play, and it is not a review channel. I'm not reviewing games. I am always being positive about the games, and that actually can throw people off at times, because they're like, oh, Jamey, you're recommending this game. I am not necessarily recommending the games that I play. I'm just talking about my favorite design element in those games. And maybe you'll be excited about that or not and end up liking or disliking the game. Again, not a review. However, I thought about, so this is an idea for an actual reviewer, someone who is sharing their opinions about games that I don't think I've seen done before, which is to have, instead of giving games a rating, because, you know, many reviewers say, okay, this is a 9 out of 10, or this is a 3 out of 5. Instead of doing that, every time you post a review of a game, you also share a tier list of where that game goes in relation to the other games that you've reviewed that year. So say you play Origin Story, you put that on the tier list, and say it's the first game on the tier list. And then later on, you review Tokaido Duo. This isn't Tokaido Duo, but it's further down in my stack. You review Tokaido Duo, and you pull up the tier list at the end of your review video, and you put Tokaido Duo above Origin Story or below it, or on the same level. I guess those tier lists often have the same tiers as well. And so every time you review a game, you cumulatively add it to the tier list for that year. Maybe you do it on a yearly basis, and then you refresh the whole list and start over. And that way you aren't necessarily rating the game on its own merits, but you're showing people, for you, how those games are resonating as compared to other games. So by the end of the year, you'll have like a full tier list that you can showcase. And as you go, I think it would be kind of fun for people to see where are they going to put this in relation to the other games that they've already talked about for this year. I don't know if it would work, but I would be, maybe someone's already doing that. I don't even realize it, to do an ongoing tier list based on what they're reviewing on a seasonal or annual basis. But I think it'd be pretty neat to see that. What do you think about that? And if you actually end up doing that, or if you know someone ends up doing that, let me know, because I want to check it out. I subscribe to a lot of YouTube channels about board games. Oh, I didn't realize this. So Jason says that Austin's game at Design Day used magnets in a very clever way. So it's a game about clocks, and I didn't realize that the little clock dials were magnetic. I didn't realize that. That's really cool. Jeremy says, how do you feel about 3D print files being posted for replacement pieces? Examples I have: a Grande worker I use for first edition Viticulture or Wingspan player pieces because we use flock mode. So, okay, let's see, Jeremy. So about replacing. So Jeremy, this is an interesting topic. So in general, we don't authorize the use of our graphic design, which includes the exact shape of our meeples and things like that, our icons, things like that. We don't authorize that for just public use. For personal use, I understand that stuff ends up happening. Like if someone prints out their own reference guide and they want those icons, I end up understanding that. It's a little bit different when people start to sell that stuff, or it is different. And so you're asking, would if someone ended up 3D printing a Grande worker, would we be okay with that? And I'd say probably yes. Even if it's an exact copy of our Grande worker. If they're selling that template, that might be, that is a little bit different. I'd maybe a little bit more hesitant about that, rather than creating their own version of the Grande worker. Now, if the question is, are we going to share the templates for these things? The answer is no. We don't share our icons or the templates for the different components that we make. And part of the reason is that we do offer lifetime replacement parts service. So we are here to replace things that if you have components that get worn or lost or are missing, we have a replacement parts form on our web store or website where people can go and request replacements for them. But it is neat to see and to continue to see how 3D printing is continuing to evolve. And so this is an evolving answer to that question, I would say. Garrett says, will I understand Smitten 2 if I haven't seen Smitten 1? And yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're all references to our games, but I think you don't need the context of Smitten 1 to understand the rules or the abilities or anything about Smitten 2. Mitch says, you may have already called this out, but are there any Easter eggs in Origin Story? There are, I believe, a few small Easter eggs. I don't think my cats ended up in the game, unless I am forgetting or missing them somewhere. I have looked for them, and I cannot find Biddy and Walter. But I am pretty sure there are a few subtle Easter eggs in the game. I'll have to look through and find any, or ask Clementine about that if there are any. Nate says, has everything from the beginning of the year teaser been revealed? I haven't looked back at that teaser in a while, Nate. This is like the riddle that we mentioned at the beginning of the year. And it is flexible. It changes over time based on what's ready, what's not ready. Probably at this point, everything has been revealed, but I don't know for sure. So Austin's talking about his clock game that apparently had magnets in it. I didn't realize it. Austin says, funnily enough, we're actually actively brainstorming ways to not need the magnets, like hole punch the clock cards, have holes in the boards, and print the clock hands with protrusions. You know, I think that's probably the right way to go, Austin, because your game has a lot of cards. The clock cards, there's a lot of them in there. If there were only a few and they were tiles instead of cards, the magnets wouldn't be a big problem. But I can see how that is an interesting challenge. Samwise says, I placed the order for Origin Story, but I forgot to add the Vantage errata pack or update pack. Is there a way to fix this? Yes, I mentioned this earlier, but I know you're popping onto the livecast now. So if you have placed an order on the Stonemaier Games web store, so for example, here's what our web store looks like today. Here's the launch page on our web store, the latest releases. So if you are at this page, you're looking through it, you've placed an order already, and you realize, oh, shoot, I forgot to add the Vantage update pack. I forgot to add the disc, or I missed this, or I didn't refresh the page and realize that there's 6 of these packs, not just 5. Please do not cancel your order. Please do not place a second order. Instead, send your order number and what you want us to add to contact@stonemaier.com. Both of those pieces, all 3 of those pieces of information are important. Your order number, contact@stonemaier.com, and what you want us to add, and we can add it to your order. You'll get a little invoice. It's very easy to click through and complete it, especially if you've just completed an order. And please do this quickly. You got to do it within the first 24 hours of placing the order, ideally within the first few hours. Yeah. Good question. Okay, Chad says the Beans and Dice call-in show has a kind of tier list of games that they have played. It creates a good conversation among the guys on the show. I do subscribe to that. I haven't seen the tier list specifically, but I'll check that out to see if they're doing it in a similar way to what I described here. Oh, this is neat. So Curvecut says, I'm paraphrasing, but Kevin Smith said he only talks about things he likes because if he dies tomorrow, he doesn't want the last thing he said was trashing someone else's hard work. I really like that. And again, as not a reviewer's job isn't to trash something. A reviewer's job is to offer an unbiased as possible perspective on what they liked and didn't like about a product, right? So I never hold it against reviewers for disliking a product if they gave a fair chance. But for someone like Kevin Smith isn't a reviewer. He's a filmmaker. Similar to me, I make games. I produce games. I design games. I develop games. And I don't like to trash games. I really don't like to do that. I would much rather speak positively about games. Even a game that I don't like, there's something in that game that I learned from as a person, as a designer, as a player. I'd much rather focus on that, focus on the positive than focus on the negative. And that's kind of the whole crux behind the Positively Board Gaming podcast that Mitchell and I have been doing for 30 episodes now. Episode 30 comes out tomorrow, where we like talking positively about things in general, but especially tabletop games. Another related statement of this that I thought of the other day, I was listening to a podcast, and so, this was Jennifer Lopez, famous pop star, actress, musician. She said when she goes to bed every night, she wants to look back on how she was that day, the person she was that day, and see that she treated people with kindness and respect and consideration. And I really like that sentiment. And I can say that there are days where I go to bed and I can't fall asleep because I said something to someone that was too abrupt or that was not out of kindness. I try not to do that, but it does happen. And those are the days that I can't fall asleep because I'm like, I don't like that version of myself that I was to this person today. I'm much happier with myself on those days where I go to bed and where I don't have those negative moments, and maybe even I can look back and be like, oh wow, like something I did today or something that I made today, it seems like it made someone smile or it made someone's day better. I would much rather go to sleep having that happen than having been unkind or not generous or not positive to someone or something that someone worked really hard to create. Let's see. Okay, Josh says that he did look to see if my cats were in Origin Story and they weren't there. Josh, did you notice any Easter eggs in there? Is the arch in there? That's one that's often in our games. Yeah, the arch and my cats are the typical Easter eggs that you'll see in our games. Let's see. Sorry, just scrolling through looking for a few questions. Okay, GW says a recent Origin Story review said that the player count scaling should have been put into the rules for some character abilities and when a number of players going for good or evil isn't equal. Are those valid criticisms? Are they valid for that reviewer? Absolutely. Is this something that we thought about from a design perspective and decided that we were making what we thought was the right decision for the game? That's also true. So we know that Origin Story that different things are valued at different player counts differently. And that's why we give players the choice to be a villain or a hero each round. That's why we give the players the choice of which story cards they choose to put on their tableau and which story cards they choose to activate each round. So there certainly are cards that are better at different player counts, but I don't think it's the right design decision to, on those cards, to say, okay, for this player count, this is this thing, and for this player count, this is this other thing. The design choice is not that in Origin Story. I think the correct design choice is what we did in giving players a lot of choices as to which cards to gain and which cards to activate. And that's the case for Trick Taking in general. A Trick Taking game is going to play a little bit differently with your random hand of cards at 3 players versus 4 players or 5 players. You're going to make decisions differently. You're going to weigh different things differently. And so I really like how the scaling works. It means players have to be flexible. They have to pay attention to what other players are doing, and not just play the same way every time they play at every player count. So I respect that reviewer's criticism, that was something they wanted from the game, but I think it's already built into the game. It's something that it's on the players to make that decision and to value cards differently at different player counts. Daniel says, did you get a chance to listen to the Planet Money podcast about creating a board game? Daniel, I think you recommended it recently, or maybe someone recommended that. I am aware of it, but I haven't listened to it yet. Yeah, but thank you for mentioning it again, so I can remember to actually listen to it sometime. Chad says you should totally call into the Beans and Dice call-in show. I have called in a few times. It's been a little while, but I have called into their show in their past. Typically, when they're talking about something Stonemaier related, I'll chime in. And yeah, so there's at least one, I think 2 that I've called into. Champion Faction says lots of new products for sale in the Stonemaier Games store in the last month or so. Might this be the largest number of distinct items that Stonemaier Games has launched in such a short amount of time? It has been, and it's way more stuff that I would like to launch, especially within such a short period of time. But we just had a lot of things that kind of came together, and a lot of them were lower price products. Origin Story, not particularly expensive. These packs individually, not particularly expensive. The expansion, not particularly expensive. Everything that we've released recently is under, I think, $35. And so that's the type of product that's nice to consolidate with other stuff. Yeah, so it is a lot of stuff. I think it's almost an overwhelming amount of stuff. But hopefully it will lead to people being able to consolidate shipping and even getting free shipping if they get over that $125 threshold or $100 for champions. But it is something that I'm very aware of. Also, a big part of this, too, is that we didn't plan on having Tokaido be a Stonemaier Games product. That was something that happened somewhat unexpectedly in 2024. And so after we get through our releases of all the Tokaido stuff, I think things will feel a little bit more normal. So all we have left is Namiji, and then I think it'll be much more normal in 2026 and then beyond. Oh, I didn't know. Sorry, I missed this. Board Game Garden. Jenna popped in. Jenna did a live stream of Origin Story just yesterday. So Jenna, thank you so much for doing that. If anyone wants to check out Jenna playing Origin Story, check out the Board Game Garden YouTube channel. And there's a video up there now about I think the live play should be up there, right, Jenna? Austin says it wouldn't be a complete Jamey live stream without us asking how are Walter and the freezer. Austin, the freezer is finally fixed. We had a freezer that was not working for about a month, or it would work for 2 days and then not one day. We were awakened in the middle of the night many times with like that beep 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 that a freezer makes when it isn't working properly. It's finally fixed. It was like the circuit boards that were faulty. Walter is having a delightful time playing with a very specific toy. I'll hold it up. Walter every now and then realizes that he has toys like this that are just sitting around, and he has been going crazy the last 2 days with this toy. So Walter's having a blast with this toy right now. I think it's so cute when animals remember that they have a toy that they love, and they go wild on that toy for a few days, and then they forget about it for months. Joshua says, did you catch the US DGC this past weekend? It was a great tournament that had me a bit emotional by the end. I did watch it. I watched the highlights for men and women each day, and yeah, it was a really exciting, like very close tournament, especially going into the last day. And I'm excited also about the points driven tournament that happens in a week or two. I can't remember exactly when that one's happening. Brendan says, if you were a superhero or villain, what equipment events would you want to have and what would your power be? I would love the power of flight. I think that's the one that's really, really exciting to me. And I would want an event that has me working together with other people, collaborating, cooperating. And what equipment, what gadget, what cool gadget would I want? That's a good question. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't thought about a gadget. There are gadgets in the game. Let's look through Origin Story real quick and see if I can pick out a gadget that I would want to have. I think there's like a grappling hook in here. Okay, gadgets in Origin Story. The cards are all over the place here. Here's a power, archenemy, backstory, and ally. There's a lot of different card types. Super suits. I'd want a cool super suit for sure. One that's easy to get in and out of. Basically, everything that Iron Man has, I would want to have. I love the whole Iron Man thing. I love his suit. Here's the grappling hook gadget. Let's see if there's some other gadgets that I want to add from Origin Story. If I were jet boots. Okay, so if I didn't actually have the flight superpower, jet boots would be totally cool. More powers, super suits, arch enemies, talents, backstories. A lot of different card types in this game. Let's see if I can find one more gadget to throw in here. Truth serum. I don't know if I would use that one. That one seems a little conniving to have to use or have a truth serum. Curvecast says, will the expansion fit into the base box for Tokaido? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You might have to take out, maybe not. You might have to take out the original insert, but it's a very basic insert in Tokaido. So you can just recycle that insert. Aaron says, out of curiosity, has the Tokaido Namiji acquisition made you open to other acquisitions? Honestly, in some ways, it's made me less open to other acquisitions. I struggled to think that the math will work out in the end, given what we paid for the Tokaido brand, rather than just creating something from scratch and either not paying me as a designer, because I don't get paid as a designer, or paying a designer on an ongoing basis based on a royalty, and paying for the marketing, the art, all that stuff. I don't know if the math adds up, and I really don't like how crowded our schedule was this year with stuff. Like I really like to shine a big spotlight on our products, and to release so much stuff. I feel like I wasn't doing that as well as I have in the past. I'm trying, and I hope I have done justice to the designers, the artists, all the people who put so much hard work into the products that we've released this year. But Aaron, I think for those two reasons, I think it's made me less likely to consider it in the future. Spenny says, do any of the Wingspan fan packs have birds that cost nectar? There are a few, a rare few, but there are a few you can. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a few, not many. You can ignore them. You can, you probably just ignore them if they have nectar in the cost and you're not playing with nectar. Chad says, did they turn the freezer upside down? They definitely did not turn the freezer upside down. Zachary says, for the charity auction. Oh, yeah, I haven't even talked about the charity auction. That is one of the biggest things that's happening today. Thank you for mentioning this. So I'll answer your question, Zachary, and then I'll show what the charity auction looks like. So Zachary says, for the charity auction, custom Wingspan box, will there be an option to see if there's any art from next year's expansion fish as an option? No, we're going to use all existing fish, just the existing fish so far, Zachary. This isn't a time. We haven't revealed that expansion yet. So just the existing fish. But Zachary's talking about our annual. There's Walter very briefly. Hey, Walter. Our annual charity auction is something that we do once a year where we feature 10 content creators in the tabletop space that we haven't featured before. And so at the very base level, if you want to find some pretty awesome content creators, you can check out the auction for that reason. And each of them picks a charity that they want to support. And we auction off a big batch of items. So each of the auction items is actually all of these things. So here's what you get if you win an auction. It is all of these things together. It's Wingspan, but actually with a custom box. So you get to pick the cover fish and the fish that go around the sides. It's an individually numbered copy of Vantage. I believe it's numbers 1 through 10. We were able to get for that. Origin Story. Did we get the Origin Story individual? Yeah. Unfortunately, the numbers 1 through 10 for Origin Story were not labeled as such, so we don't know where they are. So we couldn't put those in the auction. But you get all this stuff, including the fan design birds, everything shown here. You get all this stuff as part of the prize pool for each auction winner. You could also just, usually the auction items end up going for quite a bit because there's a lot of stuff to get all at once. It can end up being quite expensive. If you don't want to do that, but you want to support the charities, for this launch period of today through Wednesday, if you get the Tokaido Playmat, the Playmat here, if you get this on our web store, we're going to donate $10 of the proceeds for every Playmat sold to the charities that are a part of this auction. So $1 will go to each of the charities based on the proceeds of this Playmat. So if you want to support these charities without spending $1,000 on all these auction items, you can do that by getting the Tokaido Playmat in the next couple of days. Yeah, so it's something that we do once a year. Oh, and also we match the winning bid. So if someone does have the money to spend on all of these items and they spend $1,000, we are also going to donate another $1,000. So that $1,000 plus $1,000 from Stonemaier Games will go to that charity. And Fulfill Right, a wonderful fulfillment service for crowdfunding campaigns. The top bid, so if one of these auction items makes $2,000 instead of just $1,000, that's the top one. They are going to match that top bid, which is very generous of them. And even also generously for any creator who signs up for their fulfillment service during the auction. So today, tomorrow, or half of Friday, they get $400 off fulfillment of their next campaign. So they get a really nice boost there from Fulfill Right. A lot of stuff going on with that auction. You can look for it. There's a link in our newsletter. There's also a link on Board Game Geek that might be a little hard to find. So I would go to our newsletter and try to find it there. Trishul says, when we turn off live captions during these live casts, the caption text often overlaps the fan question text. Is perhaps a different layout on OBS that helps people watching without audio or non-native speakers? So I don't use OBS, Trishul. I use StreamYard, and I think the comments always appear in the same place. I don't think there's a place to change that. I'm sorry about that. But maybe I will mention that StreamYard often asks for our feedback, and I will mention that maybe putting them on another place as part of the screen might be nice at some point. Let's see if there's any other questions before I sign off today. Chad says, what have you backed on crowdfunding that wasn't related to board games? It's been a while. I mostly just pay attention to board games, tabletop games on crowdfunding. I have backed a few books, a few food-related items. I think there's something called a Pipcorn that I backed way back in the day. Popcorn without seed or without the popcorn shells in it somehow. Yeah, I see Jenna from Board Game Garden is picking some of her favorite cards from Origin Story, like the grappling hook she mentions, the Toward Ally card. Yeah, some fun cards. I'm glad you're enjoying that, Jenna. Zachary says, is there a box of scraps equipment cards so you can make your own Iron Man suit in a cave? There should be. I don't think there is something like that in the game. Marcelo says, why no Birds of Amazon pack? So Marcelo, all the packs that we made were based on continents that we've already covered because we didn't want to overlap with the future of what Elizabeth is designing for Wingspan. So a core requirement of the Wingspan fan design packs is that they are birds from continents we've already covered. The continents that we plan on covering in the future are South America, Africa, and Antarctica in no particular order there. But those are the three continents we haven't covered and will cover someday. Papa Patzer says, did you personally look at all the pitches that Stonemaier Games gets? No, I'm not the first filter for Stonemaier Games pitches. So if you fill out our submission form, the first person to see them is my co-founder, Alan. Alan looks at them and determines if they're worth, not if they're worth. He is the first filter. He looks at them. He determines the games that he thinks I should take a look at. And so I look at it next, but I'm not the first filter. Tom Vassell mentioned, this is from GW, Tom Vassell mentioned recently in a Q&A that Dice Tower is blacklisted by several publishers because not all their reviews are positive. Does Stonemaier Games do the same thing for sending out review copies? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, not for any reviewer. So we I don't watch reviews for our games intentionally. I want to stay as unbiased as possible about our games from the review media perspective. So the only thing, well, I'd say the main slightly and slash only thing that will exclude a reviewer from not being on our list is if we have sent that reviewer games and they have not reviewed them. So if a reviewer has, and it's not that we send them, we send out an email to reviewers saying, hey, do you want to review these games? If you do, here's a code that you can get the game for free and you can review it. All we ask is that you actually review it and you tell us that you reviewed it so that we know that you reviewed it. I have no idea if reviews are positive or negative. There are many. If you go to our website, you will see many reviews that are not positive about our games, and I have no idea because I just, if you send me the link, I put it on our website. So anyway, if the only way is that if I've sent a game to a reviewer and the reviewer just never reviewed it, and the Dice Tower doesn't do that, they will review the games in some form. Sometimes they batch them together in other reviews, but the Dice Tower has never not reviewed a game that we have sent them. And that they have asked us to send them. I think the only other exception that I'm thinking of is if a reviewer, I don't know how to. I won't even go to that and go into that. There's such edge cases here, but it has nothing to do about a reviewer saying positive or negative things about our games. That is irrelevant to whether or not we send reviewers games. And again, I don't even know because I don't listen to reviews of our games. Schultz says, how close are you to getting more copies of Expeditions in Europe? I don't know exactly, but I appreciate the question, and I will check with my coworker who knows about that. I believe they are on the way, but I will check on that. Yeah, just make sure to have a back in stock request, and we will let you know as soon as they're back in stock. Okay, last question here. Chad says, what's for lunch? I made Japanese curry the other day, and I think I will have some of that for lunch. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this last hour and for these wonderful questions, for your support of our products. I hope these bring joy to your tabletop, especially Origin Story, Tokaido, the Wingspan expansion, Smitten 2, all these new products that we've released this fall. There's a lot of them, but I hope you have fun getting them to your table in the near future. We are ready to ship these products to you, champions first, then non-champions. So over the next few weeks, you will get a shipping notification for our products. If 2 weeks pass and you haven't gotten a shipping notification, please let us know. Maybe give us 2.5 weeks. Give us through early November. But yeah. Oh, cool. Jenna says that she and Francis are making katsu curry tonight. That's awesome. Yeah, I made a shrimp katsu curry the other day and made it a little bit too salty. It isn't as something's a little bit off about it, but I've made better batches in the past, but it's still pretty good. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Thank you to everyone from Design Day who popped in, including Austin here, popped in the end. One last question. Who did the art for Origin Story? The artist right on the front of the box. We credit our artist front and center. This is Clementine Campardo, who also did the art for Wingspan. All right. Have a great day. I will see you later. Take care. Bye.